All right, joining us is Dr. Mohan Kumar. Dr. Kumar is a former Indian ambassador to France and Bahrain. Now, for the benefit of viewers joining us from around the world, Dr. Kumar has enormous expertise in the area of international trade and multilateral negotiations. He was India's lead negotiator, first as the GATT, or the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, and then at the World Trade Organization, or the WTO. He has served on multiple GATT and WTO panels relating to dispute settlement. Dr. Kumar, welcome to DD India News Up. Now, first up, what did you make of the Indian government's terse response to Trump's tariff threat? What would best describe its tone and tenor? Combative, conciliatory, or cooperative?
Thank you very much for having me. I actually liked the tone of the statement because it was terse, as you say, and it was factual. And I think that's the right approach. I wouldn't want to get into what the Hindi-speaking people would call tu-tu, ma-ma with the United States. Put it out factually and say what the facts are and allow the audience, whether it is the domestic audience or the international audience, to interpret the statement and come to their own conclusions. I think that's the best way forward. I think the important thing, Ramesh, is that we need to maintain continuous dialogue with the United States, which means we shouldn't stop negotiating with US at any point of time. And secondly, recognize that this is an important partnership. Yes, we are dealing with turbulence, which hopefully will be passing. So put out factual statements for the audience and for the people who want facts in order to interpret the decisions and to put your point of view across.
Right.
But otherwise, I would say, keep the negotiations going, because my sense is that the United States and President Trump may be also playing hardball, because it is true that several rounds of negotiations have happened. Quite a few people said that we are on the verge of concluding a trade deal, but this may also have to do with negotiating gambit and negotiating tactics. So my response to your point is, I think the MEA has done the right thing. Put out the facts, allow the audience or allow the readers to come and draw their own conclusions.
Ambassador Kumar, you've covered a lot of ground there. Let me unpack them for our viewers. Now, for their better understanding, why is Trump issuing these threats? What is he getting at? What does he want?
I actually think he wants a good deal out of India, and therefore it may have to do with a few sticking points in the trade deal. It may have to do with your market for agricultural products from the United States. It may have to do with American dairy exports. It may have to do with a few other issues. But I think there are sticking points still outstanding in the Indo-US trade negotiations. And this is one way in which he could be signaling to India that, listen, I need those points for us to conclude a deal, and then you can have the tariff that you want or the tariff that others are getting. So, this is that all trade deals are preceded by these kind of negotiating gambits, Ramesh. Almost no trade negotiation gets concluded within the time expected. Trade agreements have a way of overshooting the timelines. If you take the Uruguay round, if you take the India-EU trade deal, which lasted 11 years, and then we have again relaunched it. So all trade negotiations these days are not just about dollars and cents and tariffs, but about people's livelihood. And we trade diplomats call them behind the border measures. And behind the border measures, whether they have to do with agriculture, whether they have to do with dairy, whether they have to do with small, medium entrepreneurs, affect the livelihoods of people. And when you have a country like India, where more than 50 to 60% of the people depend on agriculture, then that sector becomes super important for any democratically elected government. So I see this still as part of all that which is playing out. So we'll have to just wait and see. As I said, the most important thing is keep the communication, keep the negotiation going.
Now, talking about people and their livelihoods, Ambassador Kumar, how will tariffs affect India, its economy and people in the near and medium term? I mean, why couldn't Trump wait for an India-US trade deal to come through? I ask you this because, for instance, some in the US are already calling for scrapping the H-1B visas for Indians.
That too can be considered part of the broad negotiating tactic adopted by the government. But as far as your question is concerned, which is an important question, the problem with Indian agriculture, frankly, is that our agriculture is like no other, not even China's, because we have not been able to reform our agriculture. The holdings for farmers have become smaller and smaller over the years. More and more people have been depending on agriculture, and we haven't been able to pull them out of agriculture and then get them to jobs in manufacturing, as many other countries have done. That is normally how a country moves from a developing country to a developed country or a middle income country, if you like. But we haven't been able to do that because, as you know, Indian manufacturing is only 14% of our GDP. It remains relatively uncompetitive. So, in many ways, the labor is still stuck in agriculture. We are not able to remove this labor from agriculture and put them to work in the manufacturing sector. Given this situation, and given the fact that we are not very competitive in terms of our agriculture sector, if you allow American exports, which by the way are subsidized, America does subsidize its farmers. Very few farmers, very few people are involved in mechanized agriculture in the United States. If you allow them to export agriculture goods at very low tariffs, then the Indian farmers will become completely uncompetitive. So it is a livelihood concern as far as agriculture is concerned. And that is, I think, what we must convey. There are a couple of other issues. One is our profound disinclination for genetically modified food. And Americans have adopted genetically modified food hook, line, and sinker. We haven't. And there are concerns about the impact or the potential impact of genetically modified food in the environment. And then, of course, there remains the issue of dairy exports from America to India, where, you know, even the milk that is produced in the US, it is done by cows which are likely to have consumed meat or blood or whatever you call it. So that milk is also something that arouses sensitive, shall we say, emotions in India. So for a variety of factors, if you see the India-UK FTA, for example, which we have just concluded with UK, we have pretty much got a carve out for agriculture and dairy. And that, I'm afraid, is the way forward for India. So we will have to explain this to our American interlocutors, convince them that this is not an area where, Adam Smith's free market principles can work in India, because it simply is too politically sensitive and livelihoods are at stake.
Indeed. And Ambassador Kumar, I don't want us, you or I, to second guess what New Delhi or Washington, D.C. will do going forward. But that said, how should India respond if Trump does not back off? Can India move the WTO against the US, for instance?
You can, but it will be largely symbolic, because unfortunately the dispute settlement mechanism of the WTO has collapsed. The second rung of the dispute settlement mechanism, called the appellate body, which is very akin to our Supreme Court. The high courts are functioning, which is the panels. But the appellate body, which is the equivalent of the last port of call or appeal, has simply collapsed. So that is not going to bring you much relief. I would say that instead of getting into a tit for tat trade retaliation, which would actually only be suicidal, I would say that even if the United States ups the ante, I think we should keep negotiating with them, tell ourselves and give ourselves a reasonable period of time during which to negotiate. And then after a couple of months, 3 months, if everything fails, then we can review what we have to do. But I think the relationship is simply too important for India to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I wouldn't recommend that at all. I would recommend that we continue to negotiate
Right.
in good faith and keep doing it
Okay.
until we can achieve our objectives.
Fair enough. Give it time, says Ambassador Kumar.